Namaskar and welcome to Parliament News. I'm Sakal Bhatt and up first proceedings from Lok Sabha. The government has chalked out a plan along with all stakeholders to ease congestion at the country's airports, which have been witnessing heavy traffic in recent days, and the result will soon be visible. Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia said on Thursday. Scindia also said in the Lok Sabha that the increase in traffic is due to the resurgence of traffic and also partly because of the democratization of civil aviation and expansion of the network across the country. He said, and I quote, "I have had a detailed meeting yesterday not only with airport operators but with the immigration, the CISF and others. I told them that we must have a plan for peak departures and arrivals, not on the basis of an airport's capabilities of takeoff and landing. On the basis of our peak hour traffic, we can manage our departures and arrivals," unquote. Scindia also said that there is a great degree of volatility in India's airports, which have to be smoothened up, very similar to the winter schedules being prepared by the airports to handle fog. He said, and I quote, "I have requested the airport operators to do the peak hour planning today. That process is on. I'm quite sure that we will be able to manage our airports traffic soon," unquote. Referring to the US and Europe, where resurgence of traffic was witnessed too, the minister said, and there was mayhem at the airports of the US and Europe where baggages were lost. He said, and I quote, "Our airports have done yeoman's job. That process is on. With the new planning, we will be able to smoothen up the processes, and I'm very confident about that," unquote. Scindia also said that civil aviation was one of the most affected sectors during the COVID-19 pandemic when all the planes were grounded. Pre-COVID, he said the highest number of passengers in India's history was 4.07 lakh on a single day in 2019, and the number was breached 3 days ago when 4.13 lakh passengers travelled by air on a single day. This speaks a lot about this government's and the Prime Minister's priority, democratization of civil aviation, increasing the breadth as well as the depth in civil aviation, quote unquote, he said. This, he said, also brings the issue of crowding at airports. He further added, and I quote again, "We have to understand the seasonability of the civil aviation. Festive season is from October to February, which is peak season, and then comes the normal season, which is from March to May, and then the lean season of monsoon, which is from June to September," unquote. Replying to another question, Jyotiraditya Scindia said that he would look into the issue of senior citizens facing inconvenience while transiting through Indian airports en route their onward journey abroad. Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia said that work on the new terminal of the Chennai International Airport will be completed by 2024 and subsequently it will be inaugurated. Speaking in Lok Sabha, Scindia mentioned that a new site, Parandur, has been chosen for Chennai's second airport, a greenfield one, out of the four sites offered by the Tamil Nadu government. He added, I quote, "We have a very aggressive plan for the Chennai airport. We are spending almost rupees 2,895 crore for the Chennai airport expansion plan. The probable time of the completion of the work is somewhere in 2024. As soon as that is completed, we will inaugurate it," unquote. And with the Congress rooted in Gujarat, Union Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat took a jibe at the party's leader in Lok Sabha, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, saying he would worry more about the downfall of his party than the fury of rivers. The Jal Shakti Minister was responding to a supplementary question Chaudhary asked about the damage caused by the river breach in his constituency in West Bengal's Murshidabad. "You should be more worried about the downfall of the Congress than you are about the damage caused by the river," Shekhawat said. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla also cautioned MPs for writing against him on Twitter and asked them not to do so. Birla did not take the name of any MP, but his remarks in Lok Sabha came immediately after Trinamool Congress's member Mahua Moitra raised an issue related to the Civil Aviation Ministry. Some ministers sometimes write on Twitter that the Speaker does not give opportunity to the members to speak. Please keep in mind that members should not write on Twitter about the Speaker. That would be good," quote unquote. He said during question hour. TMC Lok Sabha member Saugata Roy alleged that the central government is using a high dignitary to run down the collegium system of appointing Supreme Court and High Court judges as it wants to extend its powers everywhere, including the judiciary. Speaking during Zero Hour in Lok Sabha, Roy said that 99th Constitutional Amendment along the National Judicial Appointments Commission Act was struck down by the top court, and as a result, the collegium system of appointing judges continued. He said, and I quote, "I oppose the comments by the high authority and also by the law minister against the Supreme Court, against the collegium system, and we oppose all efforts to run down the independence of the judiciary, which is one of the pillars of the Constitution which his government is trying to bring down," Roy said. He said that even though the collegium system is not perfect, the Trinamool Congress believes that it should continue it as a bigger guarantee against the tyranny of power by the central government. He alleged that the Law Minister Kiren Rijiju has been snapping at the Supreme Court and at the collegium system. We did not take him seriously because he is a talkative minister, but now a minister in high office who cannot be criticized except by a substantive motion has come out criticizing the striking down of the NJAC law. The government is trying to extend its power everywhere, including into the judiciary, Roy said. Rijiju, who has been attacking the collegium system, has recently described it as alien to the constitution. Vice President and Rajya Sabha Chairperson Jagdeep Dhankar, in his maiden speech in the upper house on Wednesday, criticized the judiciary for scrapping the NJAC law, terming it as an instance of severe compromise of parliamentary sovereignty, and said the three organs should respect the Lakshman Rekha. Dhankar added, expressed similar views on two earlier occasions in the recent past. Roy said the government is not finding the judiciary pliable, hence it is using a high dignitary to run down the collegium system. Former Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad, who was in the House, demanded that Roy's remarks be removed from the records. Rajendra Agarwal, who was chairing the proceedings, said the chair will take a call. BJP MP from Jharkhand, Sunil Kumar Singh, said there is need to take the issue of religious convergence happening across the country seriously and claimed it has led to the rise of suicides. Speaking during a session in Lok Sabha to discuss matters under Rule 377, he said convergence are changing the direction of the society and the country. Such organizations especially target people from backward classes. There have been cases that people kill themselves due to the religious conversion. As part of a conspiracy, they are encouraged to think that they are not Hindus. They do not believe in the constitution. In Chhattisgarh, which is majority tribal in Dalit area, this is a very serious problem. Thus, a request for the strict legislation against religious conversion, unquote. This was added by Singh. BJP's Rama Devi spoke on the need for providing compensation for migrant laborers from Bihar in case of death or injury, while her colleague from the Congress raised the issue of aid for farmers from UP who lost their crops due to the excessive rains. Assam Member Parliament Dilip Saikia demanded that the contribution of the Lachit Barphukan, a 17th century Ahom general who successfully fought against the Mughals, be included in CBSE and NCERT textbooks. Several MPs have urged the government to create sports infrastructure in rural areas and take steps to include rural youth in selections. As the Lok Sabha resumed a debate on sports in India and steps taken by the government in this regard. Discussion had started in Lok Sabha on March 31st during the budget session of Parliament. Participating in the debate, Manikam Tagore of Congress stressed that the sports helps in building trust and said sports gives confidence, sports builds trust in community. The need for Bharat Jodo is an important process and that with Bharat Jodo only Bharat Jeeto can happen. He also suggested that the private sector should be roped in for development of sports facilities in rural areas. Private sector is also an important part of it. How is the ministry planning to encourage private players to support them? Said Tagore. He alleged that the government agencies were hounding those private sector players who are not supporting the government and said we have a tax terrorism mentality now. All the agencies are behind the business people, those people who are not supporting the government. Would this mindset be changed? Will private sector players be encouraged to stop in fact encouraged to support rural sports events as well? So Medhanand Saraswati, BJP MP from Sikar, lauded the flagship program Khelo India and said it is to be seen how it brings changes on the ground level. Also urged the government to focus on rural areas when it comes to sports. YSR Congress Party MP Krishna Devaralu Lavu, meanwhile, said the use of drugs has increased across the country and sports needs to be promoted to keep youth away from the menace of drugs. He added while the focus is usually on winning medals in international tournaments when it comes to sports, it is also important for holistic development of an individual. BJP MP Manoj Tiwari meanwhile lauded Prime Minister Modi for meeting athletes ahead of the tournament. He said that selectors should be sent to villages as well as there is hidden talent in rural areas. Also suggested that wellness centers in villages can be used for testing the capabilities of sports persons. Maluk Nagar of Bahujan Samaj Party said that among popular sports, cricket has received more attention and funds as compared to other sports and urged the government to provide resources to other sports as well. On similar lines, Indian Union Muslim League MP Abu Samad Samdani said that cricket is dominating the landscape and urged government to give equal importance to other sports as well. Congress MP GS Aujla asked the government to ensure timely elections in different sports federations of the country. Aujla alleged that politicians and retired officials are holding main positions in all the federations, adding that they should be removed as they are holding those positions only to enjoy business class air travels and 5-star hotel stay. Elections should be held within the time frame Ojla said. He also suggested making sports education mandatory and the job security to medal winners of the Paralympics. Karti Chidambaram of Congress too demanded that it should be made mandatory for schools to have sports grounds besides compulsory physical training. Physical trainers should get equal respect like other teachers in a school. He said adding sports should be made compulsory for taking up board examinations also asked the government to build small stadiums and not big ones as the utilization is less. Well, that was the news from Lok Sabha, and now let's move on to the news from Rajya Sabha. Proceedings of the Rajya Sabha on the second day of the winter session of Parliament began with the laying of papers. After the laying of papers, Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar said he has received notices under Rule 267 from several members. Responding to the notices, he said that due diligence needs to be followed by the members while giving the notices. Priyanka Chaturvedi of the Shiv Sena says border issue between Maharashtra and Karnataka is an important issue during the 0 hour. Elamaram Karim of CPIM raised the issue of higher pension of the EPFO pensioners, asking the minimum pension should be increased to Rs 9,000. Universal coverage of the EPFO for all sectors should also be achieved, he said. P. Bhattacharya of the Congress said that synthetic packaging is being given preference over jute packaging, which is destroying the jute industry. J.B. Mathur Hashim of the Congress demanded implementation of 475 crore package promised to fishermen in Kerala in a time-bound manner. S. Selvan Ganpati of the BJP demanded setting up of separate public service commission in Puducherry. P. Santosh Kumar of CPI raised attention to plight of workers in Kerala. Jawahar Sircar of the All India Trinamool Congress called for enhancement of the CGHS reimbursement of the government workers. N. Shamugam of the DMK said that dearest allowance be given to the EPFO pensioners to neutralize inflation. Ranjit Ranjan of the Congress raised the issue of November 24th hacking of AIMS server. Chairman welcomed the Speaker of Parliament of Zimbabwe and members of the Legislative Assembly of Zimbabwe. Amid thumping of desks, the chairman conveyed his best wishes to the visiting members. Vaiko of DMK raised concerns on Sri Lankan Navy attacking Indian fishermen. During the question hour, Minister of Labour and Employment Bhupendra Yadav, responding to a question, said that the ministry will take action on any complaint of forceful retrenchment. Responding to a question, Minister of State for Culture Meenakshi Lekhi said that the government has brought back over 200 Indian artifacts since 2014. In comparison, only 11 artifacts were brought back till 2014. In a brief intervention, Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar said that the world will look to feast on India's cultural wealth during G20. He called for inputs and suggestions in this regard within a fortnight. Responding to a question, Minister of State for External Affairs V. Muralidharan informed that 200 people illegally taken to Thailand on pretext of recruitment have been brought back. He said that all efforts are being taken for release of Indian held in foreign country. In reply to question, Minister of State for Tourism Ajay Bhatt said that all arrangements have been made for smooth travel of pilgrims on the Char Dham Yatra, including the construction of weather roads. In the post-lunch session, the House resumed discussion on the Wildlife Protection Amendment Bill 2022. Continuing this speech, Rakesh Sinha of the BJP expressed concerns on increase in wildlife trafficking, which necessitates bringing of this bill. He said that of the 12 species of the parrots in India, 8 are on verge of extinction. He said that animal species in the northeast are on the verge of extinction. Praful Patel of the NCP said that there is need to strike a balance between development and environment, which is why this bill is such much needed one. He also added that there is need for a national policy for clear environmental norms for construction of national highways. Kumar Ketkar of the Congress said jungles are being destroyed by corporates for the benefit and there is need for a law to regulate this. He lamented that there is no discussion in the country on the preservation of biodiversity. Sushmita Dev of the All India Trinamool Congress said that this amendment should have been brought through the Biodiversity Act. Jairam Ramesh of the Congress expressed concern regarding the protection of elephants under the Act, asking that they be deleted from the Act. He urged the government to preserve the sanctity of the State Board on Wildlife, saying that the bill is cumbersome and that he cannot support it in the present form. Priyanka Chaturvedi of the Shiv Sena said National Wildlife Board was being diluted. An attempt was earlier made to dilute the National Green Tribunal but was checked through the intervention of the Supreme Court. Sanjay Singh of the Aam Aadmi Party said that the bill infringes of the rights of the state governments. Replying to the discussion on the bill, Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change Bhupendra Yadav said bill provides for the rehabilitation of the people affected by the bill. Responding to Jairam Ramesh, he assured that rules will be framed in accordance with the provisions of the Act to protect the elephant community. I want to assure that rules will be framed in accordance with the provisions of the Act to protect the elephant community. We won't deviate, he said. The minister said that that the government has enabled state government to be empowered to take decisions which strengthens the federal structure. In his speech, Mr. Jairam Ramesh alleged that the bill allows the transfer and the transport of the captured elephants for religious or any other purpose, a deviation from the committee's recommendation that they be allowed only for religious purposes. Responding to the concerns of members, he said that the government has made efforts to increase green cover in the country. After the minister's reply, the House passed the bill by voice vote. Bill, which has already been passed in the Lok Sabha, has now received the assent of Parliament. The Wildlife Protection Amendment Bill 2022 aims to give effect to India's obligation under the Convention on the International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. The bill seeks to amend the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and this bill aims to strengthen protection for endangered species and enhance punishment for illegal trade in wildlife. After passage of the Wildlife Protection Amendment Bill 2022, the House took up Energy Conservation Amendment Bill 2022. Minister for New and Renewable Energy Rajkumar Singh moved the bill for consideration of the House. Speaking on the bill, the minister said that India has committed to reduce emissions and transition towards clean energy sources in various global conferences. He added that India's per capita emissions are 1/3 of the global average and contributes very less to the total load of carbon dioxide of the world. India has emerged as one of the leading nations in energy transition and climate action. We are the only major economy whose climate action is compliant with the sub-2-degree rise in global temperatures. We have pledged in COP21 in Paris that by 2030, 40% of the established power generation capacity will be from non-fossil sources. We achieved this target 9 years in advance. We achieved this in November 2021. Today, our non-fossil fuel power generation capacity is 42% of our total capacity, he said. The bill amends the Energy Conservation Act 2001 to empower the central government to specify a carbon credit trading scheme. Designated consumers may be required to meet a proportion of their energy needs from non-fossil sources. The Energy Conservation Code for buildings will also apply to office and residential buildings with a connected load of 100 kilowatt or above. Energy consumption standards may be specified for vehicles and ships. Initiating discussion on the bill, Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, while supporting the bill, lamented that India's forest cover is much below the level targeted. Our forest cover has crawled against target of 33%. It has grown to 24.6%. Mr. Singhvi said that the bill requires clarity on the agencies that will be created for issuing carbon credit certificates and also on the steep penalties for those who do not meet requirement of the reducing carbon emissions in various activities. Sushil Kumar Modi of the BJP praised the efforts by the NDA government in effecting energy transition to non-fossil fuels and taking climate action. Jawahar Sarkar of the All India Trinamool Congress said that the government should not rush through the bill, which needs to be examined by the parliamentary committee. Discussion on the bill remained inconclusive and will continue on Monday. The chairman called for special mentions. After the special mentions, the chairman adjourned the House for the day. And with that, that's all we have for you in this edition of Parliament News. We'll be back tomorrow, same time. Thanks for tuning in. Namaskar.